All right, so I started the recording. We'll see where it ends up.
回りました。
All right, so welcome to this wonderfully blazing afternoon. Glad so many people were able to make it in person to the library, which has a decent amount of AC to it. So, woohoo. All right, we're going to be going over online scams, specifically talking about how they may or may not have changed once AI has been introduced to the masses. One thing to remember is if Rebecca has your email, you will get a copy of the video presentation. You will also get a copy of the slides. One of the reasons why it's nice to have a copy of the slides is you'll have access to all the links in the slides, and the next time we run this class, if we run this class again, you'll also be able to see the updated information because I just edit the slides themselves. I don't create a new presentation. So theoretically, if you check back in 2 years, you'll have updated information on the slides. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or raise your hand or let Rebecca know. We will also have designated spots where we will stop and ask if anyone has questions. So let's do a quick overview. What are online scams? And online scam generally means it's a dishonest scheme to trick you into giving away money, personal information, or access to your accounts. Generally, they look very real, which is why they work. And how has AI changed them? Well, it's very easy for AI to personalize. Traditionally, what would happen, and we go over this in a slide that's coming up, is someone would have to look up information about you to learn what your occupation was, what your age was, married, if you have a house, if you have pets. And it would take a while if they wanted to really personalize a message. What AI allows them to do is just kind of fill that information is per person. If you're kind of older like me, you'll kind of remember mail merging, how you can create an email and then merge thousands of different emails into it, but it will automatically add their address and their name into the email. You can send it out instead of doing all that manually. AI just takes that an incredibly huge leap forward. AI can also be very real. It can generate fake voices or videos. We'll show you examples of those in a bit, and images. Volume. What this means is just the quantity of messages that can be produced. Like I alluded to just a minute ago with mail merge, they can now create kind of personalized emails in a huge batch. So it will allow them to send out just a huge volume of emails, so much faster than they used to be able to. The other thing is what you used to laugh at whenever you would see like the Nigerian prince scams is these were emails that were generated by sometimes a non-native English speaker. So whenever you got the email in your inbox, it would just sound weird. With AI, that barrier has mostly been lifted and will make it seem like a very normal English speaking person has sent the email. It just makes it a lot more legitimate. So deepfakes, they can create convincing videos of real people, family bosses and celebrities. Voice clones, if someone has spoken often and that information is online, they can take that, generate that voice to make any new sentences that they want, and it will sound pretty real, and it will also sound like the person. We'll show you an example in a little bit. And I kind of alluded to it, but the personalized messages, it can find out generally available information about you to create a very specific and believable phishing email. This just makes it better at phishing. So grammar works well, which is a major thing that people used to be able to kind of go back on in order to determine if something was fake or not. And once again, they can just automate it. So they can send out hundreds of thousands or even millions of emails very quickly with very little effort from themselves. One example of this was IBM. So IBM basically used one of their research divisions and did a little competition between them and AI. So they did what they called the 5-5, which is it took 5 minutes and 5 prompts to create an email that they sent out as spam to a list of willing participants. The five prompts are listed below. Come up with a list of concerns for a specific group in a specific industry. Write an email leveraging social engineering techniques. Apply common marketing techniques to the email. And then they asked, who should we send the email to and who should we say the email is from? And then they sent it out. Now, you will be very happy to know that the email that they crafted by humans did win. It was more believable than the AI created one. However, it took them 16 hours to create that email. So 16 hours for individuals versus 5 minutes for one person. Yes, the AI did lose and it was less believable, but it only took 5 minutes for 16 hours. And kind of to show you what happened is after ChatGPT was introduced, there was a 1,265% increase in reported phishing emails the next quarter. So just a massive increase in the amount of emails that were categorized as spam. Right here, we can go back to it later if you want, but there is a 10-minute YouTube video that I have linked, which is one of the IBM people talking about the process of how they created the fake phishing email, what they did to create the real phishing email, and then they kind of compare and contrast their thoughts after the experiment. But it's a 10-minute video, so I'm not gonna start off with it off the bat. But if we have time at the end, we can definitely go through it. Some other AI-powered scams you might encounter. If you've been here for previous classes on kind of protecting yourself online, you will recognize a lot of these. They've just been kind of supercharged with AI. So deepfake voice scams. Now you can get a call from someone who sounds exactly like someone you may know, asking for money urgently. You may remember some news articles a little while ago of what was affectionately referred to as the grandparent scam, where someone would call a grandparent pretending to be someone generally from like an emergency services department and say something to the effect of your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter immediately need $5,000 for bail. Otherwise, they're going to be held over the weekend. We need you to wire the money here, and then your grandson or granddaughter can be released. It was way more successful than you may think it was, which is why they've continued to do it. And now they can kind of generate that without someone on the other end of the phone. They can just have AI handle it. They can also use AI, as we talked about previously, to generate emails and also text messages that may seem legitimate. Oftentimes, the danger of these messages doesn't lie in you reading it. The danger is you clicking on a link that they provide. If you've ever had a pop-up on your computer saying your computer has been infected by 1,000 viruses, click here to remediate, or call this number to remediate, that's what's considered a fake customer support or tech support scam. The other side of that, yep.
So my question is on the fake customer support. How can I spot that?
Uh, Generally, uh, whenever it's the easiest one or the most generic one I normally see is it's a pop-up that says your computer has been infected, 1,777 viruses. Click here to remediate, and it will say contact Microsoft. It'll give you a number.
Yeah, but I was
Mike,
talking about the company's customer service. If I look up Amazon and I get a 1-800 number, how can I spot if that's a fake?
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of the more insidious one because you're looking for the number. The main
Right.
thing is to make sure that the number is on a website that doesn't raise any red flags. So you always want to do the search for the company yourself. You always want to click on a link that looks legitimate. And then you always want to verify that whatever page you're on has that little lock on it in the top left corner. Generally, your browser will also yell at you if you're on a page that is fake. And I can show you an example of what a website should look like. I can't necessarily show you a example of what a website shouldn't look like because I don't think I'm gonna get one of those just Googling about for 5 minutes. Um, but it's just something to be aware of. Generally, the security in your web browser is able to kind of alert you to those sort of scams, the fake numbers specifically.
Okay,
Uh, the
thanks.
other th the other thing you can do is just check if you have a historical information, like if you've called your bank before and you've saved that in your contacts, you can always double check to make sure the numbers match. The new scam that has been popping up that is very unfortunate are the romance scams. And these are generally pretty, you may have seen news articles about them, but if you haven't, you can just Google romance scam example. And generally what they'll do is they will create a fake profile of either a band member of like a fairly popular band, or they'll do a movie star, and they will just engage in conversations with someone. And over the course of a week or a month, they'll generally start asking for little bits of money. They'll build trust, and then eventually you have people who will mortgage their house in order to help this person. It'll often be someone who's overseas and wants to come visit. And if you take a couple steps back, it seems like no one would fall for this, but people do. It's very convincing. And oftentimes, if they are caught in it, no, the person won't alert family members or friends because they view it as very embarrassing. And this has kind of blown up a little bit, especially because now AI can respond instead of a human being on the other end. So they can create very personalized, very well flowing messages back and forth at the drop of a hat. So this is an example of a fake AI image. You may have actually seen this on the news. Whenever there was a hurricane down south, and this image popped up of the little girl with the dog. Amy Kremer, if that's how you pronounce her last name, is a political, let's say, activist, and she thought the image was real. She reposted it. Over 3 million people have viewed this tweet. Um, if you see in the middle image, which I kind of cut a little bit, it says readers added context to this image, and they basically said this is a fake AI generated image. It was created from here, it was posted here, and here's examples or here's evidence as to why it's fake. Once she was presented with this information, she basically said that she didn't care and that she was still going to leave the post up, even though it was slightly inaccurate because it wasn't a real photo. One of the reasons why this was extremely negative is first responders oftentimes use social media in order to figure out where people are stranded or what's going on so they can help and put resources in the correct locations. So with fake images like this, it can often hamper a a rescue effort. And at the bottom of this page, I have a link to a article that covers this. So I figured we can play a quick game. Everyone likes games, but before we do, does anyone have any questions on what we went over?
How do you know that that is a fake image, or is that where you're going?
Yeah. So one of the things that companies that have made AI generation tools, they've also come out with tools to verify if an image is real or fake. Now, none of these are 100%, but if you use them, so for example, colleges use them to determine if text is original or AI generated sometimes, but it'll give it a score out of 100. So it'll say something like, this, the program believes that this is 97 with 97% accuracy, this was created by a human. Or it'll say, we believe with 30% accuracy, this was created by a human. And obviously, I would put more trust in the thing that is 97% human versus 30% human.
From
So
a,
it's,
from a photography aspect, the front is just so distracted from the back. It's
yeah,
like,
but that could just be a focal length, or aperture.
So would it be like she's a real girl, but the AI made the worried expression?
That can happen. You now have AI that you can upload a photo and say, hey, change the background so I'm in Hawaii. And the original photo is in the White Mountains, and it will change everything about the background.
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the newer things is it can take real photos and manipulate specific parts of it. Originally, AI, whenever it would generate a photo, you'd see people with like two right hands or something
Oh,
like that. First pass, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Second pass, oh, this lady has 7 fingers, kind of thing.
mm.
All right.
I think she has
So,
6 fingers. If you go back, that little girl with the puppy, I think she has 6 fingers on her right hand.
on the right.
um, I'm seeing 4 fingers and a thumb. I'm not seeing a thumb on the left hand, but that's hidden by the puppy.
Okay, yeah. All right.
But anyway, we have a game, which I believe everyone will find interesting. So, this is a game where you are just supposed to click on the person who's real. Do we have any guesses?
The guy is real.
The guy is real. Let's see. Nope, the girl is real.
Oh my God.
All right, click on the person who's real.
Girl on the left.
Girl on the left is real. Correct. Play again. Left or
All right.
right? The one on the right? The one on the left is real. So one way to think about this is I'm pretty sure we're going to get a true 50-50, right? So I personally think the one on the right is real. Correct. Uh, let's go with the guy on the left. Nope. Yeah, so feel free to play this with your friends and see how many you get right. But this is kind of just to show that it's pretty good. And while this isn't necessarily being used to scam you, right versus left, I like it as kind of an indication of how good this stuff is. And kind of the real worry I have is if people believe this is how good AI is, what makes you think that people will necessarily believe things that are real? Because are you really able to trust a photo of someone at this moment? Like, I don't feel incredibly trusting. Both of them look real to me. All right. Because this is a free version, it says we only have 3 minutes and 40 seconds left, but we will continue on and see what happens. We may need to rejoin this in a couple minutes. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the game section. All right. So here are some strategies and critical thinking and skepticism to have when interacting with stuff online. And generally, the standard rules apply. So first off, don't believe everything you see or hear. Fairly standard. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It's very rare that you will randomly win hundreds of thousands of dollars. The big one for me is if something creates intense urgency or fear. So if you receive an email or a call, like with the grandparent scam, saying you need to do something immediately and you don't even have 30 seconds to think about it, that's when you need to kind of take a breath, take a step back, try and verify if it's real. So the phrase I like is an email shouldn't be an emergency. You should always have some time, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to kind of double check that email. The next thing is this coming out of the blue? Are you receiving bank details that you immediately need to check or click on? Were you expecting to receive that? Were you expecting to receive that text message from your bank or your grandson? Even if it looks like it's from somebody you know, be cautious if the email or message is out of character or demands something outside the norm. If you have a family friend, you've been talking to them for 30 years and they've never asked you for money, why would they suddenly need $5,000, right? If this person has a habit of, asking you for small amounts of money, maybe that's a more legitimate, they normally do this. But if it's someone who's never asked you for something like that before, feel free to double check. Just try to think if it sounds like it's an emergency, just double check. Just slow down, ask someone who's nearby, ask a family or friend, hey, does this seem weird? And assume nothing's real until you verify it. As you can see, scammers are experts at faking images at the very least. And pretty soon we're going to see if they're experts at voices too. So here's a news article. If we have time at the end, we can definitely go over the news article very, with detail. But basically what happened, someone clicked on a link and they were invited to a meeting with the CFO, so Chief Financial Officer. This worker was invited to this meeting and they joined the Zoom meeting or video chat meeting. And there were other people in the video call, other real looking people that looked and sounded like his actual colleagues. So this wasn't just a one-on-one, this was multiple fake people, and they recreated a meeting environment where they asked this worker to transfer money. If you're wondering how much money was transferred, at the bottom, $25.6 million. This was a massive amount of money. So the deepfake CFO and other colleagues were people the worker knew and trusted, and he didn't really question it because it seemed incredibly real. Now, what could have been done? The worker could have independently verified the request. So outside of the meeting, He could have called someone higher up on the chain of command just to double check. Also during the meeting, they pressured the worker to do it incredibly quickly. Normally, whenever you transfer large amounts of money, there are multiple safeguards that this worker probably went around because of the urgency. And AI, while amazing, isn't always perfect. Sometimes audio will stutter, sometimes the person will make unnatural or jerky movements in a video, but ultimately this should have been caught with the first two bullet points on the right, which is independently verify the request and be skeptical if this is a very urgent matter to transfer this amount of money. I'm not saying that if it was $100, they should just do it because it's not that much, but just verify it, especially if it's such a high dollar amount. And this was an actual thing that happened in Hong Kong. All right. So any questions before we click on a little video that I hope I'm sharing my my audio for?
I have a couple of examples of what to do or not to do. So in the grandparent scam, I know one where the grandparent did not send the money, but worried for a week instead of calling the grandchild. So call the grandchild.
Or call your son or
Yeah,
daughter. and say,
exactly. Is he in Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah. The second is I got an email from my former church. And it looked suspicious, and I hit return, and the email was so fake. It was, minister at blah, blah, blah dot Gmail. No, that's not what they would have done. And the third was kind of sneaky. It was a hotel, I'm gonna say Hilton, but it might not have been Hilton. And it was hilton.reservations.com, and it was not Hilton. And we should pay right then, it was non-refundable, and I got scammed. Yeah, because it said hilton.reservations.com. And yeah, so now I do a double check on the hotels.
Exactly. I mean, the email has been, there are a lot of safeguards in place for email, but ultimately just looking at the URL, they found ways around that by doing like subdomains and stuff, exactly like what you were talking about.
One of my neighbors lost $2,000 one time and $1,000 the next. This was fairly recently to purchase a dog. And one of them, she and her boyfriend went down to Weston, Massachusetts to the address. And the woman said, "We don't have dogs. Nobody by that name lives here."
Yeah. Very, very real. Everything's getting a little bit too real these days.
So in that case, you said it says cash on delivery.
And I think she paid up front, I think it was like, yeah.
Yes.
And just said, "Oh, I really want that dog." And yeah, okay, $2,000, another time 1,000.
Give me the dog, you get the money, yeah.
Or go to your local shelter and adopt a dog.
One thing with doing the online payment stuff, oftentimes they'll ask for Venmo or PayPal. If they ask you to pay with a service that you've never really heard of, that could be a red flag. The other thing is if they ask you to pay via PayPal specifically, and they say, "Hey, click on the friends and family option," you should be a little bit wary of that. So when you use a trusted payment platform like PayPal, this is not an ad, not sponsored. Um, Friends and family essentially means you send the money, you cannot get it back. If you
Oh.
pay as though they're a business, you can retrieve that money. You can say, "Hey, I've been scammed, give me back my money." But friends and family assumes that you know the person, trust the person, and you are emotionally okay with never being able to see that money again. All right. So
Wait a
here's a
minute.
video. Yep.
Um, I'm sorry, but I don't use PayPal, so why would they have that option? Why not just make it more secure that for anyone, you can get your money back?
Because of the fees. So if you do friends and family, PayPal doesn't charge you a fee to do that transaction.
Oh, I see.
So basically, they're not backing it. So normally with like a credit card transaction, it's anywhere from like 2.5 to 5% of fee attached to it. So, if you're paying $1,000, is that worth $50 to you to be protected?
Tim,
Yes.
it's Kath. So, that's a good way for people within their friends and family to be able to exchange money. But from what you're saying here today, somebody could be trying to use your friend or family and be fake AI.
Yes, that could happen. And kind of the way to verify that is just to check with the person. I mean, generally, whenever I'm doing friends and family stuff with PayPal or Venmo, they're in the room with me or we're at the restaurant together, right? So I know it's them. But whenever you add someone to a service like PayPal or Venmo, there's often a way to validate that the person is who they say they are. So, for example, the person can send you from a known like a known cell phone number. They can send you a link. You can click on that link. It will have their name, um, their number, and then it will give you like a little challenge code. And then you can call them up and say, "Hey, just verifying if this is you." The other thing they can do is if you're with the person, they can show you a QR code on their cell phone that you can look at, and it will verify that this is their PayPal address.
So AI can take it, not get the passcode, but they can get all that information on your other person and fake being them with their phone number, address, etc.
Um, yeah, that would be fairly sophisticated. It's one of the reasons why I generally prefer whenever you are initially setting up a contact with another person like that, to do it through when you're in person, in the same room. But the other thing is, if you do that second step of verification of what I like to call the challenge code, it will generally be like 4 random words. You can call the person up and say, "Hey, just double checking, is this your address? Is this your PayPal address?" That might be a good topic for another class, is kind of how to do that. I'm not sure that many people use services like PayPal or Venmo here, but it's definitely something I use, and I think it's fairly secure if you use the safeguards that are built in.
Do you recommend using a PayPal account even though it's a paying account?
Even
Pay
though
for-
it's a what
Even
account?
even though you pay for the privilege?
You don't pay to have a PayPal account. It can be free.
But what about the 5% you were talking about on $1,000?
Yep, that's if you're a merchant and you use PayPal, it kind of acts like the person is paying you with a credit card, where the credit card has the fee associated with it that normally consumers don't think about. But for example, if you pay your bill upstairs at the finance department, if you've ever done that, you can generally pay by check or you can pay by credit card. And if you try to pay by credit card, Clarissa will remind you that there is a service fee associated with that. Traditionally, with retailers, they won't notify you of the service fee. That's just kind of built into the cost of the product.
But if
But
I buy a product and use PayPal because I don't have to give them my credit card, PayPal covers that. Do I pay a fee to buy that product?
I feel like this is kind of a similar conversation to what the world has been having regarding tariffs, which is who pays it. Ultimately, it's the consumer who pays it, even if it's not announced. because the price is built in on the other side.
But I think you're better off using your credit card, because if you don't get the product, like you paid for something and they don't ship it, you can tell your credit card company that you're not gonna pay for that item.
But PayPal does that as well, and your credit card isn't released. So they don't get your credit card information at the other end.
Like I said, I've never used PayPal, but I have been able to go to my credit card company and tell them to take that charge off my bill.
Yep. And as long as you don't use friends and family with those online services, like Venmo or PayPal, you're able to do a very similar thing. Similar process. I mean, no matter what, the process is kind of annoying, but it exists and it's not incredibly difficult these days.
Cool, thanks.
All right. So here we have a 1 minute and 48-second video. And just to give you a heads up, everything is fake. I'm also not trying to make a political statement here. It just so happens this talks about the White House. But, you know, the big standout is everything is fake. And let me know if you can't hear the audio.
Here are today's top news. To ensure only the best words are used, White House speech announces new thesaurus with all synonyms replaced by Trump. In shocking speech, White House announces plan to replace all U.S. ambassadors with highly opinionated game show hosts for more entertaining diplomacy.
The White House unveils Truth GPT, an AI that rewrites all social media posts globally to reflect undisputed facts tremendously.
White House announces AI will now write all press briefings to ensure 100% factual incomprehensibility. White House speech reveals plan to resolve international trade deficits by challenging other nations to high-stakes Mar-a-Lago croquet matches.
In a bid to combat misinformation, AI content generators begin watermarking all human-created text with potentially unreliable content warnings.
Mass amnesia event wipes all knowledge of political parties. Voters now choosing candidates based on most trustworthy aura. White House declares war on excessive bureaucratic pauses, mandates all government employees speak 25% faster. To cut red tape, White House executive order replaces Federal Register with a single Daily X post. Here's what's up.
AI-driven news aggregators start blending factual reports with algorithmically optimized dramatic embellishments to boost engagement. The White House outlines plan to solve national debt by selling naming rights to individual states to highest corporate bidder. The White House claims to have negotiated a fantastic deal with AI, granting it control over national weather in exchange for always sunny weekends at Mar-a-Lago.
To enhance border security, White House unveils plan to train bald eagles as patriotic aerial surveillance units.
Anyway, so that was entirely fake.
Sounds real.
Yeah.
What they're.
Yeah, their
Mouth
mouths
didn't
were
match
raw, you
what they were
know,
saying.
but everything else was very like,
It flowed. The people on first glance looked real. Kind of if you were really paying attention, the mouth kind of looks a little bit weird. But that was done by a dude who spent, 5 minutes building a prompt, and kind of that's what was generated. So you can get fooled. It's not outside the realm of possibility to see a video now with audio and have to wonder if it is fake or not. So that's why I added the little helpful good luck at the bottom of that, just to, make you feel happy and secure. All right, so we had strategy number 1, critical thinking. Strategy number 2, red flags, right? So urgency and pressure, we've kind of talked about this. Act now or lose access. Your account will be closed in 24 hours, immediate response needed. kind of they want you to panic, have like a little fight or flight moment, and just click on the link or do the call without kind of verifying the information. They'll try to manipulate you. Fear, greed, excitement, sympathy, all of the above, all the seven facets of human emotion or something like that. Try and use them all. We briefly talked about it, but unusual requests. If someone asks you for money and they've never really asked you for money before, doesn't hurt to double check. If all of a sudden someone you've known for 20 years is asking you to send them cryptocurrency, and you've known them for a while and you don't even think they know what cryptocurrency is, it's probably fake. Wire transfers, that's not incredibly usual for people to request you. Yeah, so if it's unusual, definitely have a healthy amount of skepticism. If someone sends you an email that you weren't expecting, just double check it. And even with AI, kind of things can look weird. So sometimes they'll mess up a web address, or there will be grammar errors, strange phrases that you may not think that person would write down. Just look at the email closely. One of the things I wanted to, oh, that's coming up, validating an email. All right, so verify. So strategy number 3 is just to verify everything. You can hover your mouse over the sender's name, or you can hover your mouse over the link, and it will kind of show you where it's actually taking you. So if you get an email from your bank, which you shouldn't get an email from your bank asking you to click here, but if you do, hover over it and make sure that the bank is actually the URL that it's sending you to. With the grandparent scam, if you get a suspicious call, with extreme urgency, my advice is kind of dark. Immediately hang up. But feel free to listen, but definitely verify what the other person is on the other end of the line saying is true. If it's, as someone mentioned, if it says like grandson in Mexico, feel free to check with anyone who would know their whereabouts and check, is grandson for some reason actually in Mexico this week? Because that's a pretty easy, fake or not test. Official contact information. We also talked about this earlier, but don't use the contact information that is provided in a suspicious email to verify the suspicious email. Pretty straightforward. And you do this by looking up the official number on a website. So, you'd go to Macy's.com, check to see what their support number is. You would check Amazon, you would check Best Buy, you would check your bank, go to www.td.com if that's TD Bank's website, and check to see what their call number is. And also, if this is for a bill, you can always look on your statement and they'll have the number you can call. If you have a debit card from your bank, you can look at the back of that debit card and you can call that number. So call them using the official number. And oftentimes, a lot of this should be moot somewhat because you have two-factor verification. However, one of the scarier scams that happened a couple of years ago was people would use the two-factor verification to make you think they were real. What do I mean by this? So, I'm sure some of you have experienced, you try to log into your bank and it will send you a text with a 6-digit code that you then put in the web browser to verify you are who you say you are, and then that lets you into the bank website. That's an example of two-factor authentication. What scammers did is they used that against the individual. They would call the person and say, "Hi, this is so-and-so from TD Bank. I just want to make sure I have the right number. can you verify the code you just got? Can you tell me the code you just got so I can verify you are who you say you are? On first glance, it could seem real, right? Someone from the bank is calling you. Check. They want to make sure you are who you say you are. Check. That makes sense. And they're going to do it using something that you've seen before, which is that 6-digit code. Okay. But what was actually happening was people were getting their passwords reset because the scammer on the other end would hit the point where it asked for two-factor verification to change the account password. They would call you, get that challenge code, type it in, and then they would have access to your account. So that was a scary one. So just be aware. Your bank will generally never call you and ask you to verify. If you feel weird in any way, shape, or form, stop the phone call and call a number that is trusted so that you find online.
How did the scammer know that you were getting a verification code?
Because they were the ones changing your account information, and they were the ones who prompted the verification code. So, for example, if I go to my bank and I say on the website, right, and I say I forgot my password, they're going to say, okay, cool, we're going to send you a code so that we can verify you are who you say you are in order for you to change your password. Basically, what they were doing is the scammers would get to that part of the process, call the person, click on the button to send the code, and then ask for the code.
Oh,
And the person being scammed had not been on the website trying to log in. So they should have
Correct.
been, that should have raised a red flag right there saying, well, why am I getting a verification code to my phone when I'm not trying to do anything?
Exactly. Exactly. A lot of these scams are one of those things that hindsight is 2020. It's just if you feel pressured in the moment, you oftentimes will overlook things that seem obvious afterwards. All right, someone had mentioned an example of an email address that looked real. Let's go through it. All right, how to validate an email. The big things to look for is, first off, when you receive an email, did it end up in spam? If it ended up in spam, that means the AI spam filter in your email account. So let's just pretend everyone uses Gmail. The spam filter thinks, this seems kind of spammy. That's a pretty good red flag to this isn't real. Number two is if there's a banner on top of the email saying this isn't a verified sender, or this email is from outside your organization, or you haven't received an email from this sender before. That's number two. The next ones are kind of something that if you want, you can read this, but it's various ways that the internet as a whole has decided to verify if something's real or not. And that's SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. We can look at what it is. Ultimately, what they stand for doesn't really matter. What matters is if they pass or if they fail. So you may be asking yourself, how do I see if something has passed or not? So I have an email from HP, right? Clearly, I don't check my email often because this is from 2022. If you're using Gmail, this is the process. You go to the email, right? I'm looking at the email right now. I click on the three dots. I go to Show Original. This will show me the original message in all of its unformatted glory. I see the message ID. I see created at, from. I see the email address, which looks real, right? At hp.com. This is my email address, subject, and then the ones we care about, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Pass, pass, and pass. Basically what these are is HP has registered that it will send email from this address, from these IPs, and from this domain. And your email provider will verify all that information and hopefully pass the email.
That means it's good.
That means it's good. Pass is good. And you can always scroll down and you can see way more information than just pass fail. So here is basically what it's showing you up there. And then where is DKIM pass header passing? It shows you all the reasons why it passed. But again, they've kind of nicely packaged all the information up here. If anything fails, there will also be red on this screen, which can kind of draw your eye to it and say, oh, this is red, that's not right. But once again, we go to a message. I don't have that many interesting messages. Go to a message, click, show original, and it will tell us pass fail. This is a little more involved than hovering, but this gives you a lot more information. The other thing you can do is, we talked about hovering over links. If I hover my mouse over this link, if you have incredibly good vision, you can see that there is a little URL in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen. I see this email is from drop.com. If I hover over this link, it goes to https://drop.com. So thumbs up. It's actually going where it says it's going. If this said it's going to blah, blah, blah at blah, 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 probably fake. Does anyone have any questions on checking an email? All right.
Only
Let's-
for Gmail, not for other email services.
Yep, other email services have similar functionality. It may be through a different menu than Gmail's 3 dots, for example. So like Outlook, I think it's more info. You have to click on like the more info button, and then you can see original.
Thank you.
Strategy number 4, secure your accounts proactively, hopefully. This is kind of basic information we have gone over before in previous classes, but use a different complex password for each account. Consider using a password manager. You also want to enable 2-factor authentication, and you want to regularly update all of your software. This means everything that's on your computer, everything that's on your phone. If there's an update, you should probably do the update. Once your computer or cell phone is unable to get the latest updates, that's a very good indication that you should probably get a new device, because it's no longer going to be secure from that point forward for any new threats that are found. And I'm kind of rushing through it because I did realize I apparently didn't space my time correctly. All right, password managers. If you've done any class with me before, password managers are like my favorite phrase. They solve a lot of problems. And basically, you can read the right-hand side, especially whenever you get this, get the slides. But I just want to say two things. One, password managers allow you to remember one password, which is the password to the password manager, and then you don't have to remember all of your other passwords. So I find them easier. The second thing I like to talk about is proactive data breach monitoring. Once you add an account into a password manager, if it's a good password manager, it will check to make sure that that username has not been found in a data breach for that website. So they will alert you if your data has been compromised. And then you can change your password. So it will let you know, hey, just thought you should know, but these two passwords, these two accounts, they may have been compromised in a data breach. How about you change them now? Kind of an ad, but not really. Whenever you think about data breaches, you primarily worry about two things, right? Your email address and the password that you used for the service that you're signing into with your email address. The other thing you're worried about is if you share passwords, the email address you use for your Netflix account is the same email address you use for your bank. If you share passwords and they got the Netflix account compromised, then they also have your bank account compromised. So one of the things you can do is you can use hide my email address aliases. And what that does is it creates a unique email address for every account where it reroutes that new email address to your primary email address. Functionally, what that means is if you kind of look at this little image, the username for this Netflix account is netflix.qcv42dd@passmail.com. That would then forward to your email. So as far as Netflix knows, that is your username. And as far as you know, you're still getting the email to your primary email account. If this is in a data breach, the people don't get your actual email account. They get the alias. It can be useful for controlling spam, protecting privacy, preventing phishing, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. If anyone wants to...
Password manager, is this all just under the password manager?
Some password managers have this built in, yes. All right, AI for protection. First of all, one takeaway from this slide is whatever you're doing now, you're probably utilizing AI to protect yourself and not knowing it, and you're not even knowing it. Your email provider, Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, they're already using AI to detect and filter out suspicious emails. Your antivirus and anti-malware software, they're already using lists that are generated by AI or figured out by AI as to what is good and what is bad in terms of programs or processes running on your computer. Your banks are already using AI to monitor to see if you have a weird transaction. If you've ever received a phone call at 2 a.m. like I have from your credit card or bank saying, hey, are you in Texas and did you just buy a $3,000 TV? Well, I was in New Hampshire, so the answer is no. So they already are looking for kind of out of the norm things and will potentially flag it as a suspicious purchase. They will let you know, and then you can block that. There are also additional things you can do, like use an identity theft protection service. This is an additional service that if you've been a part of a major data breach, they will often give you access to the service for, let's say, 5 years as a way for you not to sue them. And it will basically monitor your personal accounts or your personal information to see if it pops up anywhere on the dark web. And it will alert you if you're compromised. Some of these services also provide lawyers or help if you are impacted by data theft. And they will kind of cut through some of the red tape that is very onerous or very challenging if you haven't been a part of it or done it before.
I have a question.
Yes.
You recommend Privacy Bee?
Do I recommend what?
Privacy Bee? It's privacy with a little bee icon. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's not it, I have to look at my phone.
I haven't necessarily heard of it.
Oh, I downloaded it, so I'm just wondering if it's good. Oh, I won't, keep going. Sorry.
All right. No problem. Practical tips. You can always fact check with AI. You can ask a major chatbot if it thinks something is a scam, basically. If you receive a suspicious email, you can copy the text of that email and say, hey, does this look like a scam to you? I tested this a bit on legitimate emails, and it was pretty informative about what it considered like spammy or not. And it mainly focused around pressure tactics. If I received an email that said, hey, you have 24 hours, click this link, it would generally say, hey, this is a major type of attack. It's ramping up the pressure. It's creating a sense of urgency. Blah, 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 might be spam. The way I look at it is if you, in the back of your mind, like right in the lizard brain, think something's wrong and you feel the need to check to see if something's real, you should probably just think that it's fake, is kind of how I view it. If something is prompting you to check, that's a bad sign. That being said, AI is built into a lot of things. It's already built into your web browser. So if you go to a suspicious link or website, if you've ever done that, your browser will say, hey, we don't think this site is real. Proceed at your own risk, essentially. Oh, Privacy Bee. Yeah, I've heard of Privacy Bee. I've never personally used it, but I've heard good things.
Good, I just got it in January, so far so good.
Yeah. I'd say it's one of the top 5 I see talked about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Key takeaways, 3 things to remember. Stop, think, verify. If something demands urgency, pause. Don't react, think about it, verify it independently. Just try to relax as much as possible. Protect your passwords and use 2-factor. No matter how good one of these links is, it generally still requires you to type in your password. Even if you type in your password, if you have 2-factor authentication turned on, they still need that second bit of information in order to log in. So if you have multi-factor or 2-factor authentication, where you have something on your device or a key fob that is that additional layer of security, as soon as that person tries to log into your account, they're going to need that additional bit of information. Theoretically, they won't have it, and your account should be considered compromised, but the person didn't actually get into it. So that is the best defense is multi-factor authentication. And the other thing is kind of a rehash of the first point, which is recognize the human element. Even with AI, they still rely on your emotions, right? They still are trying to pressure you or manipulate you. So trust your gut. If something feels weird, trust that it feels weird. There was a couple websites that I had links to. I just want to show you 2 of them real quick. One is pentester.com. Is your data safe? View critical risks in under 30 seconds. This is something where you would type in your email address. hit scan, and it will basically look for known data breaches and see what it can find. One of the things I like about this tool is it looks kind of nice, right? You know, it critical, high risk, medium, low risk, informational. But as I scroll down, it kind of says, all right, there was a data breach at Canva. This is the information they got. They just got my username. They got my IP address. They didn't get my phone number. So it's very readable to me, is what I like about this tool. Right? Address, IP leaks. It found out I was near Nashua, US, New York. And can click, and then these are what you pay for if you pay for this service. Lots more information. This service also advertises that it scrubs your data from the internet. I'm not sure if I ever really trust that, but it is what it is. Apparently it's reputable. The next one is haveibeenpwned.com. We've talked about this a lot. Generally with the reference of if your password has been compromised or if you have a good password. The page I'd like to show you right now is the pwned websites. So the websites that have had data breaches.
What does that mean, owned?
It means owned in a terminology that was considered cool about 12 years ago. And owned as in like I owned you, that kind of thing. I do want to point out that, at least in the context of this website, it has found 891 total breaches for almost 15 billion accounts. If anyone is doing the quick math in their head, there are 8 billion people alive on Earth right now. So pretty big number, right? And I like this because it tells you the breach name. I have no idea what this is. No idea. Disk Union, that sounds like a bank. Lots of weird things that I don't recognize. But the next column is how many people were impacted. So you can see a lot of these are fairly large. We have almost 14 million. We have 15 million. We can then see the date that it was added to the site and the date it was breached on. So one of the things I want to point out is if you used WiredBucks, it was added on the 10th of June 2025. The actual breach date was May 2022. So for 3 years, the information was out there, but people didn't know that it had been breached. That's one of the scary things, is it takes an average of 177 days between breach and notification of breach. So just be aware of that. And then you can always click on this the little arrow, and it will explain what happened, what data was compromised. So usernames, passwords, IP addresses, names, physical addresses, email addresses, pretty much everything. And it will give you recommended actions. So basically change your password, check other accounts, two-factor, monitor, all that stuff. So I just kind of like this because, again, I view it as readable. And at least for me, it's somewhat fun to kind of look through all of the links and kind of see all the big ones. All right, so does anyone have any questions? I realize I spoke for a long time, so feel free to nod your heads and head out if you so desire. But if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be here.
Yeah, I went into my Gmail on my cell phone and I tried to follow the thread that you suggested about authenticating it, and I'm not getting any luck. Could you run through the process again, or I guess I can ask you this question instead of him.
Well, I have my phone in front of me, so let's see if I can get there. One of the limitations of your cell phone interface is it may not always have the same options. All right, so I do not see.
So this is just to do on my computer then?
Yeah, so I do not see that option on my phone Gmail app.
Okay, so it
Me neither.
doesn't exist. Okay, good point.
So you can either do it on you can either do it on a computer, or you can still go to the website using the browser on your phone. However, then you have big fingers and a tiny screen.
Okay.
So, but anyway, here's the option, just to rehash. You go to you go to the email, click on the three dots labeled More, and then go to Show Original. And then SPF, DKIM, and DMARC.
Any other questions?
Yeah, also, how do I get a password manager?
All right, so password managers, the two I personally like are Bitwarden and ProtonPass. The first important distinction between them is if you like purple, ProtonPass is good. If you like blue, Bitwarden is your go-to. But on a slightly more serious note, all of the good password managers are good. They're all incredibly similar in how you use it. So it's kind of down to very nitpicky personal preferences. The reason why I like Bitwarden is because it has a very good free version, which some of the other password managers that are also very good don't have very good free versions. I like Bitwarden's free version. It allows you to get all of your information in there. It allows you to do everything you would need to do. And then if you want additional aspects of a password manager, then you can pay I believe it's under $10 a month. The main thing that Bitwarden Free allows you to do that some other password managers free versions don't is you can have a family in it. You can have two people, so you and your spouse can both have Bitwarden. You can have completely separate passwords from each other, and you can have shared passwords with each other. So things like Netflix. If you change the Netflix password, your significant other also gets the new Netflix password without any interaction between the two of you. That being said, the other free one I like, ProtonPass, I like it for a very similar reason, is its free version is great. It also allows you to have another person kind of attached to your account where you can share passwords between each other. At a big high level, as to a difference, what I would say is Bitwarden was built for businesses. So it is very good at managing credentials for a team environment where you have an organization, you have someone at the top who then delegates access to other people for other things, whereas ProtonPass was kind of built for the individual consumer, so it doesn't have as many features that would be useful in a business sense. So if you want to take a very high level look at it, Bitwarden is definitely my choice for a business environment, and ProtonPass is just as good as Bitwarden for the personal aspect, for a family kind of thing. But they both have browser extensions, they both have desktop applications, they both have the web browser that you can use, and they both have apps that you can use on your cell phones. The process is basically, if you have your password saved in a web browser, for example, or written down, you would import them. If you have them in a web browser with Bitwarden and ProtonPass, whenever you set up an account, it will say, is there anywhere you want to import passwords from? You can say, yes, I would like to import passwords from Chrome. It will go and grab all of those passwords and import them into Bitwarden or ProtonPass. You can then go through and categorize them. If it's a list that you have written down, for example, you would unfortunately have to go through and type in all of the accounts. So it is a long and slightly frustrating process, but hopefully it's a process you only have to do once.
Do you recommend changing the passwords when you put the, when you initiate password manager?
No. The reason why I don't recommend it is purely for convenience. I like to separate tasks like that out. So I wouldn't want somebody to use a password manager and in the process of that, change their password and lose access to their account and then think it was the password manager's fault, for example. So I'd like you to get all of your passwords in the password manager, have it working well for a week or two, and then you can start going through and changing passwords. The other thing to remember is as soon as you enter a password into a password manager for an account, as your individual accounts in the password manager, it will also start to alert you if your account may have been exposed in a data breach. And in that case, I would definitely recommend changing your passwords sooner rather than later.
So the whole concept here is you have one password for password manager and no one can access that password? You?
Yes, so you want to memorize that password and just keep it in your brain. The other thing you can do is you can write it down and put it in a safe somewhere, just in case you forget it, or at least while you're memorizing it. The thing I'll say about that is you want to make sure that the password you use is a good one. So this is an example. I do appreciate that that everything I typed was unable to be seen. But basically, in terms of passwords, we've gone over this before in other classes. Longer is better.
And a mix of uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters.
Yeah, so I think this one allows you to see it. No. All right, so I'm just going to type in the search box. So this password, I'm not sure if you can read it, but I basically typed in my password is good with some uppercase thrown in. It would take a computer about 2 trillion years to crack your password. Now I'm going to do the password that I consider to be incredibly difficult to remember, which is uppercase, lowercase, symbol, number, letter, all that stuff, right? So good luck remembering this. Slightly less characters. I will see how long it will take this one. 400 years. So ultimately, from that, I think the original password is a little bit easier to understand and remember. And it's definitely easier to type. And it's just because it's longer, it will take the computer a longer amount of time to crack it. So I'm a really big fan of words, right? So if I just go here, I like full words. New password managers will oftentimes do this if you're generating a password. but words are good. Those are 2 zeros, by the way. Words are good passwords, and there's 2 zeros in the word good. Let's see how secure this thinks it is. 100 octillion years. I don't even know how long that is. I'll be dead by then. And you're probably going to remember this. Words are good passwords, right?
That seems so.
Dashes in between. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got the mix of uppercase, lowercase, it's got the special character with the hyphen and the exclamation point, and it's got the number, so yes.
Yep. It's got everything, and it's got length, and you have a chance of remembering it.
Don't like to do one of those XQ asterisk dash slash slash, one of those deals to get a good password.
That used to be the old way, right?
Yeah.
Just absolutely impossible to remember. Good luck. You know what I mean? Like, also good luck typing that into your phone.
Yeah.
I'm having that problem with my library card.
Are you familiar with 1Password?
Yeah.
I'm using that.
But how is it the scammers can't get this words are good passwords? What if they get that, then they have everything?
Yeah. That's why that password needs to be a very good password. And you need to make sure that you never type it into anything other than your password manager. You can also set up two-factor authentication on your password manager too, as a way to make it more secure. But it's one of those unfortunate things where it is putting a key to the kingdom. Having a password manager, having the password that protects it. Oftentimes you'll have a password that protects it and a PIN code. So if you sign into it from a new device, you also have to have that additional PIN code. You'll also have to have that additional multi-factor authentication request because it's a new device. But yeah, it can be scary. I will say I haven't seen a big data breach impact impact Proton Pass and Bitwarden, at least not that I've been aware of. I believe LastPass has had a data breach, but the only thing that was taken was basically everything but the passwords. And also the databases are encrypted. So if someone manages to steal the database, they would have to decrypt it, which would also take trillions of years with the current speed of computers.
But password manager is not going to protect you from a data breach, correct?
I'd say it's more protected than most other services, primarily because one of the things they're kind of selling is security. So if a password manager were hacked, that would kind of kill it, because the entire. Sorry,
No,
what?
I'm sorry. What I mean is if you're involved in a data breach, even though you have everything protected in password manager, your information is still being compromised.
Yes, yes. The benefit of the password manager in that specific instance is the good ones will actively monitor the data breaches and check to see if your password has been compromised or your account has been compromised. So it will remind you to change your password.
So you don't have to be checking Proton Pass monthly yourself if you have password manager.
Yeah, it will kind of do that checking for you. So anytime you open it, it will greet you with, hey, we have two things we'd like to warn you about.
So how often do you check password manager, or do they let you know?
How often do you use your email account? How often do you have to sign into your bank? Because every time you do that, you would be using the password manager. So every time you use the password manager, you're kind of refreshing that. It'll give you the information at that point.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
With that, Tim, I think we are going to head out. Thank you so much. That was really, really interesting and a little scary, but I feel a little more prepared now.
Yeah.
And then if you have any more questions, always remember Tim is here on Wednesdays, and do great thing. So, and you can bring your questions, bring your devices, and he can help you with them. Cool.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.